It is a very evil and wicked crime. When somebody goes out to stab somebody or shoot them, they're going out to hurt somebody. But when they take something like acid or very strong alkaline, they're going to damage that person for the rest of their life. This is something that's life-changing. Well, it's particularly shocking, and fortunately, these incidents of acid attacks are quite rare. But when they do come to the public fore, they're very frightening. Because of course, people who commit these crimes, they don't just do it to hurt somebody. It's a very psychological thing. They do it to maim them for a long time, as we saw with the tragic case of Katie Piper, who's people recognise her as being a victim of this wicked kind of crime. From a medical point of view, of course, this takes years and years for surgery and the like. And of course, the psychological scars will last a lifetime. I mean, one of the people badly injured apparently is a youngster, and so they've got to now live with this, and it's just a terrible thing. How anybody can hurt anybody, particularly a child, in this way. I think that what should be praised is that the local residents seem to have got out of their houses very fast, and the fact that they've used water and stuff. What happens in the first 5 minutes is probably more important than happens in the first 5 years. The fact they've dosed them in water would really have helped. The latest report we have is that this was a very strong alkaline substance. So that's the sort of thing that people would use to clean ovens, drains, toilets. So it's not acid, it's the absolute other end of acid, but just equally as damaging to skin tissue, particularly sensitive for human organs like the eyes, and so very badly injured in that sense, burning sensation. But fortunately, with water, the more it's washed away, the less impact it can have. The problem with things like acid and alkaline is there are very legitimate uses for this in the building trade, in the cleaning industry, and all sorts of other areas of work. So you can probably go down to your local hardware store and buy the most brutal burning acid or alkaline, because people have got a good use for it if they're cleaning drains or ovens. The problem is when criminals get hold of these substances and then use them. And what it really is, I find, a kind of personal attack, though. When people use this weapon, it's usually against somebody they've, a previous lover, somebody they got real emotional attachment to, and they want not just to hurt them, but to damage them very much. And that's the wickedness of it, I find. When somebody goes out to stab somebody or shoot them, they're going out to hurt somebody. But when they take something like acid or very strong alkaline, they're going to damage that person for the rest of their life. This is something that's life-changing, that this person's going to have to live with forever, disfigurement, and it's truly evil. I mean, it's been going on for a long time. The law relating to this is from 1861. So people were doing these sort of evil things then, just as chemicals, I suppose, were being developed. But the more and more, these substances will be stronger and stronger and even more dangerous to a human being. It is a very evil and wicked crime, and one where somebody's set an intention. No one has that sort of stuff in their vehicle by chance, I would say. Very, very few people. Very few people have it legitimately, are working on very, very specialist things, but to have it in some kind of spray bottle or something. We saw recently, last month, there was a cyclist attacked in Surbiton where somebody squirted it out a water bottle. That's somebody who's got that with intent to cause grievous bodily harm.
I was driving home and the guy is screaming at my window. I opened the window, he squirts acid in my face. Share this video so that no one else makes the same mistake I made tonight, and that is that I opened my window to talk to someone who was screaming at my car.
I don't really know if they are becoming more common. I mean, as far back as the 60s, there's a Richard Burton film called Villain where they used Jif lemon bottles with acid in it to facilitate an armed robbery. We know they were happening in the 1860s because that's why the law was passed. I think, fortunately, these kind of attacks are rare, but when they're done, of course, they come very much to the public providence because people are shocked and appalled by the whole thing, particularly in this case, as a child has been injured. I'm surprised at the increase in women victims, because I would have thought that it was really something that men would do to women in this, like we saw with Katie Piper. Somebody's got an attractive girlfriend, the relationship comes to an end, and they want to ruin the whole thing for her forever. That's why. But I'd imagine men, the reason men have been targeted is not because of their looks or relationship. This would have been more in a robbery, for robbery, armed robbery sort of view. But if there has been an increase, it's a terrible thing. And maybe the government needs to look at when you buy this stuff, like you buy a firearm, you need some kind of permit or something to say why are you actually getting this. The trouble with this, of course, is that gangs may catch on to this because it's easier to conceal this rather than a knife. But at the moment, I think most of the attacks, as I say, they're organised criminals, or they're attack or domestic matters where men go out to maim a girlfriend or something like that. But whatever the circumstances, this is just a vicious crime. From a policing point of view, officers are allowed to search anybody for an offensive weapon. Now, that could be anything, because, of course, the most legitimate kitchen knife could be an offensive weapon if you've got it for the wrong purposes. So if somebody's carrying this around the streets who's not dressed in overalls with a big bag saying Kitchen Cleaner Express or something like that, then there's very little reason for somebody to have such a thing. So anything can be an offensive weapon. So the powers exist for the police to stop and search, confiscate these items, and bring the person before the court. I have to say, I never had to deal with any acid-based attacks. These are very, very rare occasions. I mean, the crime itself carries a maximum punishment of life imprisonment under the Offences Against the Persons Act. So it's a very, very serious matter. I mean, I was a young police officer in Clapham. Where this happened is the nicest end of that area, and very surprising. So I'm just sure that the residents will be utterly shocked, as will the public. And as I've said, the fact that a child was involved is even worse. I'm afraid if somebody's going to do this sort of attack, this will be a spontaneous moment in their life where somebody jumps out in front. It'll be very rare. What must happen is, however, if it does happen, a massive amount of water. The best thing that could happen is somebody to tip a bucket of water over your head. The residents in Clapham seem to have been out straight away with water. That is the most important thing. As I've said, the first 5 minutes of that water will be more treatment than 5 years of surgery.